This is WLYFHD2, Miami.
This is your Caribbean station, the voice of the Caribbean. This is the all-new voice of the Caribbean.
And welcome one and all. It's Suzette Speaks Live. How are we? Happy Thursday. This is a thankful Thursday, also known as a throwback Thursday. Grateful to have one and all here listening, as we do have a special guest in the studio. Lots of news. You guys know I'm an attorney. You know I like to talk about what's hot in the news. I'm going to save some of those topics for tomorrow, because today I have the honor of speaking with a gentleman who is fighting for a cause in our community that I think you will find very compelling. He has a interesting and actually very heartbreaking personal story. I was kind of going over some of the background of his organization, and he chose to turn tragedy into triumph. He chose to find meaning in one of the most heartbreaking scenarios one can have in this lifetime. I am going to get deep. I'm going to get personal. He said that's okay, because we have to let the people know what's really going on in the community. And he has a fantastic event coming up on Saturday to address some of the very painful parts of what's going on in our community. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Chris Cavalll.
Correct.
And I'm going to put him on a mic so you guys can hear him. Can you speak into the mic so I make sure I can hear you?
Absolutely.
There you are.
Okay.
How are you, sir?
Great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so grateful that you're here. And we're going to be talking about substance abuse. So for those listeners who are sensitive to that topic, viewer discretion is advised. I'd also like to just highlight the opinions of the guest and me, your host, are that of us as individuals. This is not representative of the management or ownership of this station, so viewer discretion is advised. Now that we've gotten all of that all out of the way, how are you, sir?
Good, very good.
And I wanted to introduce you, but you can introduce yourself. Welcome. How are you?
Good. Chris Cavallo from the Robin Foundation.
The Robin Foundation, and they are going to be having a 5K this weekend. We're going to talk about how he got to the 5K, of course, but we want to get to know him a little bit more. So tell our viewers about yourself and what it is that you do in our community.
Sure. So my wife, Robin, and I, parents of twin girls, were recovering addicts. We were in active addiction together for 20 years, found the rooms of recovery back in 1984, and tragically, after 17 years of recovery, my wife Robin had to have surgery, which required pain medicine. And even though she was very active in recovery, helping people, saving lives, she was still an addict. And several months after her started with the first prescription, she died from an overdose.
Wow. So
that was devastating in itself. And for my twins also, one of my twins, Stephanie, who hadn't taken drugs really up to that point, just started spiraling out of control emotionally.
Wow.
From losing her mom, in and out of jail, in and out of the system, homeless, trafficked, just the worst kind of scenario imaginable. You know, addiction doesn't discriminate, doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, how much money you have, how little you have. Addiction affects us all if you have that disease. So Stephanie, after 18 years, she too succumbed to fentanyl poisoning. So it's changed rapidly since when we first lost Robin, as far as the landscape regarding opioids and what the pharmaceutical companies did as far as pushing opioids out onto us. So Stephanie's twin sister, Christina, said to me, Dad, we've got to do something. We can't just sit on the sidelines. We've got to tell our story, and we've got to do something. We've got to make a difference. So that was the premise of the start of the Robin Foundation. So what we do is we're one of the larger distributors of Narcan, along with our co-sponsor for the event that I'll be talking to you about, South Florida Wellness Network. So we distribute Narcan into the communities, and our initiative in 2025, unlike in 2024, is to directly get into those communities that need it most, the Black and brown communities, the communities where indigents are. Those are the people that need to be saved, truthfully.
I'm going to stop you right there. You have said so much. Again, this is a Suzette Speaks Show Live. Again, this is a special edition. I have a guest in studio. If you're watching on the YouTube side, if you're watching on the app side, Voice of the Caribbean 2.0 is an app. So you can go in your Apple, or I'm an Android Play Store and download the app. We're doing some serious heavy lifting. If you're listening to us on your lunch break, I beg you, pull up a chair if you're watching Team Replay, or if you're listening while you work. Again, this is a heavier conversation, but we feel it's very important to educate our community. Oftentimes, especially within the Caribbean American community, drugs use, substance abuse is very taboo. We will talk about, cannabis, but there are others types of drugs that can impact us all. And as Mr. Chris from the Robin Foundation is describing, we're hearing a lot in the news about fentanyl. And fentanyl is an opioid, and this type of drug is highly addictive. And if you do have a major accident or surgery, oftentimes I have various colleagues. You guys know that I do personal injury law. And when I'm even talking to clients, when they've gone through something very horrible physically, where they are injured or impaired in some way, oftentimes they are prescribed this level of substance, this drug, in order to help with pain and help with their recovery. And it can become addictive if we're not careful. That's why we thought it was very important to talk about. Our conversation is going to lead up to an event where Voice of the Caribbean Radio will be present, which is Saturday on September 20th. There's an event called Walk for Lives, United Against Fentanyl. It's going to take place in Pompano at the Pompano Community Park. That is 1660 Northeast 10th Street, Pompano Beach, 33060. Once again, this Saturday, Walk for Lives. We want you guys to be aware there is a wonderful way you can support this type of issue. Because what I admire most about Mr. Chris, after losing his wife to drug relapse and overdose, after his now daughter suffered from fentanyl poisoning. And again, I'm grateful for your vulnerability, sir, for you sharing so openly. A lot of people are afraid to talk about taboo topics such as drug addiction and substance abuse addiction. But we know it's an addiction, and there's a lot of taboo around it. That's why we wanted to take the time out here on the Suzette Speaks Show to pull back the veil, right? So that you could speak to a real human being who really lived this, really walked this. And I can't imagine, I'm going to take you back before we bring you forward, sir. In that season of drug abuse, again, some of us have had exposure when it comes to family and friends. Some people have not. So I want to be aware that in my audience, I'm sure we reach from all the way from the Keys up to Jupiter. So we have a vast listenership. A lot of people do listen on the app as well. So as we're doing this show, I want to first set the intention that the purpose of us talking about this is educational. And we want to make sure we also create awareness so that if you or someone that you know or love is involved or does have some sort of substance abuse, and we're going to talk about some of the signs as well, we want you to know where the resources are, right? There are people who can help you. You do not have to suffer in silence. I think a lot of people, especially after you have like a knee surgery, back surgery, these type of things, you end up getting these prescriptions and you don't know how your body's going to react. You don't know how your brain is going to react, right? So we're coming to this subject matter from a non-judgmental space Again, all of us have a journey in this lifetime to walk, and we're here to help one another along this journey. So I'm going to go back to Mr. Chris now. Again, he has a foundation named for his late wife, and it's called the Robin Foundation. And I'm reading here that it has over it's one of 200 organizations nationwide organizing Walk for Lives in the state of Florida. So Walk for Lives is a grassroots movement to confront the fentanyl crisis. All right. So I'm just setting you up so people understand who you are and why we are talking about what we're talking about. So let's go a little bit back into your personal story. How did you and your wife together find yourself in a place of substance addiction? This is the 80s. This is the 90s. Take us back a little bit.
Yeah, so when my wife and I first met was I was living up in New York. I was down here on vacation. I met her at a dinner party. We went outside. We had a cigarette, and the next day we were sharing speed and pain pills, and we were complete strangers. But we just was from one addict to another.
Wow.
So we went from hardly using to full-blown addiction. We couldn't hold jobs.
Wow.
So it was a long, hard journey in and out of detoxes, treatments. That's usually the scenario. And fortunately, fentanyl wasn't really prevalent at that time. You would hear, heroin, cocaine, of course, marijuana, which you had mentioned, cannabis. And I have to tell you, we work a lot of events with the DEA, and they have a statistic saying that every 6 to 7 pills that they seize in the street are laced with fentanyl.
Oh, wow.
We have someone that has worked with us whose daughter, just from smoking pot, didn't realize that she was laced and she overdosed. Thank God.
Wow.
Her dad had Narcan. And that's the case. Narcan is this amazing medication that allows you to reverse an overdose. So that's why we, along with South Florida Wellness Network and several other organizations down here, because we can't do this on our own. There's several great organizations distributing Narcan and doing training. And I also just want to say one thing about Southwest. They have like a peer to the street, and they meet the addicts face to face, and they the Broward Sheriff's Office. The number one sheriff office in this country, as far as I'm concerned, is the BSO, because they train their officers. Don't just run and just arrest people. Help them. Meet them where they're at. Let's, bring in a mental health counselor. So when we talk about community policing, this is really community policing. So under the tutelage of Sheriff Tony and Dave Scharf, it's great how we're all coming together and trying to make our community safer.
Yes, I'm here fiddling with my YouTube. Sorry about that if you're hearing it in the background. But I'm listening, and I'm hearing some very good information how law enforcement is partnering with organizations like yourself to make sure that people who are vulnerable, people who are in need, and I think, again, some of us who lived here through the crack epidemic, the 80s, 90s, sometimes I think there's some heartache and resentment because people didn't understand drug abuse versus substance addiction. It was criminalized then, but I think now maybe in the public eye, somewhat in the scientific and in medicine, it is now more seen as your brain becomes literally codependent on a substance, and it is not a matter of self-control or how strong of a person you are. It takes control of your brain, literally. And most people who end up taking drugs, sometimes, as you said, unknowingly, when it comes to cannabis, marijuana, many times, especially here in South Florida, I've heard these stories where it's laced with something and people don't even know. And so that's the danger. That's something that we want to make sure the community is aware of, because anytime you take some illicit substance, even though, in Florida, you can have your medicinal marijuana card, anytime you're buying something in the street off of someone who is not, inspected or in any way monitored when it comes to our institutions of government, you're taking a risk because we don't know what's in that substance that you're purchasing. So I think I just want to share some information because we keep hearing, and we're not going to get into the political side of it. You know, the fentanyl is coming over the border, but according to some information, Mr. Chris from the Robin Foundation, who is in studio with me today, right here on the Suzette Speak Show, speaking about his personal journey. He and his wife, his late wife, she lost her life, unfortunately, to an overdose death. And he has now, along with his family and other community partners, have put together a wonderful walk that will take place Saturday. That's September 20th, called Walk for Lives. There are going to be over 200 Walk for Lives across the state of Florida to raise awareness and to help with the purchase, as he's describing, of the Narcan treatment, which can help reverse an overdose as it is happening. So we have this incredible resource. He's going to talk a little bit more about why he decided to do something in his tragedy to help others, because sometimes, again, we get lost in our own pain. And sir, I wouldn't blame you if you did. But he said, and along with his family, they're going to do something about it. So they have decided to create a whole walk in order to raise awareness. It's called Walk for Lives. It will be this Saturday, September 20th. That'll be in, at the Pompano Community Park, 1660 Northeast 10th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. All right. And registration for the walk begins at 8:30, ends at 9, and then the walk starts at 9:30 to 11. And again, this is by the Robin Foundation. You can always find more information at www.robinfoundation.org, www.robinfoundation.org. Again, Mr. Chris, I thank you for your bravery, and I thank you for, again, turning your pain into purpose and allowing for others to, not have to go through what you've gone through with the loss of your wife. So I was reading here, sir, it says that fentanyl deaths are the leading cause, and this is from notes that you sent us. Fentanyl is now believed to be the leading cause of deaths for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45, and it's having a devastating impact basically on every part of society. Talk about that, because you said drug addiction, substance addiction has no boundaries. Sometimes people have an idea of what a person who's addicted to a fentanyl or some other opioid looks like. Talk about that in your work. What have you seen, or who have you seen this type of addiction impact?
Yeah. As I said, addictions is not discriminatory. It could be a radio host. It could be a Wall Street banker. It could be an athlete, and athletes, professional athletes, many times when you hear some of their stories as well, that they were given pain medicine at one time for an injury, and they were either re-injured or it wasn't working, so they end up going out to the streets to get pills or pain medicine of something that'll help, and that's where the trouble begins, because of the amount of drugs that have been laced with this horrible drug, fentanyl.
Yes, sir. I'm talking to Mr. Chris Cavalll, again, from the Robin Foundation, www.robinfoundation.org, robinfoundation.org, talking about a project that he has now created. So talk about the walk. We have about 5 minutes before our first break. Talk a little bit about the walk that will take place on Saturday.
So the walk was actually started by a gentleman by the name of Paul Martin. He's the CEO on the LA of United Against Fentanyl, and he's does no addiction in his story, never lost anyone, was actually writing a book in New Mexico, came down Santa Fe to a little city called España, and saw all of these people in the streets all telling the same story, fentanyl. So they either were dying or had died from fentanyl. They were all using it. And he felt, as a humanitarian, that he needed to start and do something. So that's the reason why we joined with him and well over 200 communities throughout the country to have this walk, so there's more education, there's more awareness, so we can reach people from all walks of life. Do you know that we lose on average of 20 high school students a week? 20 high school students a week.
Wow, that's crazy. And again, this can happen to anyone, as Mr. Chris is describing. This type of addiction knows no race, knows no ethnicity, knows no economic status. And again, sometimes people like to stereotype and we
Yeah.
like to believe within our own selves. It can't be me, but it's one pain injury away. And I've seen it happen. And again, some of the most unassuming injuries can have us in a place where we become addicted to substances. So don't be ashamed. If you need help, there are lots of resources in our community. And again, this is the Suzette Speak Show. We have a special guest in studio. We wanted to cover this topic because Walk for Lives is this Saturday, September 20th. And again, if you want to support this amazing cause where someone who has been directly impacted by substance abuse, taking a life of his wife, of his loved one, Miss Robin, and he named the foundation in her honor, robinfoundation.org, robinfoundation.org. Can they still register?
Absolutely. Yes.
And how much is registration?
Free registration.
Oh, so you don't pay, so it's
Yes,
free. So
yes.
you guys, come on, let's
Yeah.
exercise, let's get it
Yeah.
together. And that'll be this Saturday, Walk for Lives, in support of the Robin Foundation, United Against Fentanyl, other community partners, including Voice of the Caribbean Radio. Once again, it'll be this Saturday, September 20th. September 20th at the Pompano Community Park, 1660 Northeast 10th Street, Pompano Beach. So we are here just trying to bring awareness. He's sharing his personal story. We have about a minute before the break, sir. I want to, have you encourage people. We're going to take a short pause for the cause. Folks who are listening, we're having a discussion, I think, generally about compassion and empathy in our society. There are a lot of people looking at folks and I think, there are folks that can put themselves in the shoes of others, but then there's some folks that blame or say, if it were me, that could never happen to me.
Right.
Being that you have overcome, you're probably still on a recovery day-to-day journey, something that had total control over your life. Substance abuse can take over your life. As you described, can't keep a job, can't go to work. All you can think about is getting high, getting high, getting high. It's hard for people who have never experienced that or never seen that to understand. So talk about that walk, and where was your aha moment from that?
Well, I had lost like 50 pounds. I was emaciated. You could see my rib cage. And I said to Robin one day, I said, Rob,
So knowing that anybody at any time can go get into a treatment program, we have lots of resources. You can check out robinfoundation.org for more resources. We have to take a quick pause for the cause. This is the Suzette Speak Show live, doing something a little different today. I wanted to bring you this community resource, the Robin Foundation. You can go to robinfoundation.org. They have a fantastic free 5K coming up this Saturday, September 10th, in Pompano Beach at the Pompano Community Park, 1660 Northeast 10th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida 33060. Registration begins at 8:30. Show up, you guys. Let's help support this amazing cause. We're going to have more with Mr. Chris from Robin Foundation after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. More Suzette Speak Show right after this. You're still on YouTube. Hey, YouTube, I had to cut it because sometimes our commercials get us in trouble and I get copyright strike. You can stand up, you can stretch. All right, and then let me, I'm gonna turn off my monitor here. I'll be right back, YouTube. Sorry, we gotta get water. Let me see if I have any. Actually, I might have a small. Let me see if I have a small bottle here. Sometimes I carry. Let me open this bottle. Carry a bottle. I thought I had one. Never mind. I thought I had one. Let me go look in the outside. You have one? Alrighty, going smoothly. And then Miss Chin or Mikey, I can call after this.
okay.
Now we do have soda.
No.
No, I don't want him to sit here and you don't drink soda, sir.
No, thank you. No, or ginger ale? Voice of the Caribbean. I'm on the show right now. I thought it was 5 minutes. It's going to be a half an hour. 96.9 Voices of the Caribbean FM. I don't know what 101.5 FM.
Do you drink Starry, like a Sprite?
That's fine.
Okay, there's Sprite.
Just something to sip.
Oh, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're good. All right.
Jeez, I don't know what I did wrong here.
All right, we're back.
Stand by that.
In about 20 seconds. You got it. You got it?
Yeah. Oh, crap.
Hey, and welcome back. It's Suzette Speaks Live. I'm here with a special guest. We're switching up the topics a little bit today. I know you guys want my hot take on the news. Don't worry, you got to tune in tomorrow. A lot going on with what's happening with Jimmy Kimmel. Of course, I'm itching to talk about those subjects, but I found a subject matter that I found a little bit more important because of the nature of what it focuses on and how that has impacted our community across the country, but specifically here in South Florida. What is that? We're talking about the issue of substance abuse today. And again, if you're just joining, welcome. This is Suzette Speaks. I come to you live every Thursday and Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. right here on Voice of the Caribbean 2.0. We are here on 101.5 FM HD2, bigger and better, as well as 96.9 FM, Broward County, Fort Lauderdale. What's up? We're so excited. We know you're listening. We know tons more people have downloaded the app. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We're growing all the way from Key Largo to Jupiter. Yeah, I don't mean out of space, right? I mean, up north. But we have a special guest in studio because, again, I'm making, light of, just today. I call it Thankful Thursday, right? We all have something to be thankful for. If you woke up this morning and you forgot to say thanks, do it now, because there is something that you should feel thankful for. And sometimes when the weight of the world gets heavy, I tell people sometimes it doesn't seem like it looks heavy, but I know it can be heavy. So whatever you're carrying with you, just know that there's someone that loves you, someone that cares about you, and we care about you here at Voice of the Caribbean. That's why we're doing today's show. We're trying to highlight the impact of fentanyl. Now, in the Caribbean American community, as I said, sometimes talking about drug addiction or substance abuse addiction is a very taboo subject. We're comfortable when it comes to cannabis and talking about the, medicinal marijuana and those type of things, but we don't often talk about other types of drugs, specifically opioids, that have had a deleterious effect. That's my lawyer $1,000 legal word, that has had a horrible effect on our community. And we're speaking to somebody, Mr. Cavalll, who has walked in those shoes. So when I do my show and I try to plan out my interviews, I want to have some personal testimonies that you can grab a hold to. And again, I just want to caution those who may be sensitive to the subject matter of substance abuse. That's what today's show is about. You can also call in if you have any questions or if you want to share your personal story. 850-446-0562 gets you right in touch right here on the Suzette Speaks Show. 850-446-0562 gets you right in touch. You can call us if you have questions for him. He had a tragic loss, and he was telling us about it before the break, where his wife, Robin, his wife of how long, sir, were you guys?
25 years.
25 years married, and met each other, immediately started abusing drugs together, saw himself getting kind of to rock bottom, lost all this weight, couldn't, I'm sure, recognize yourself in the mirror kind of thing, like, what is happening to my life? Let me tell y'all, this is why I call it Thankful Thursday, because life comes at you fast. All of a sudden, you're looking in the mirror and you're asking yourself, who am I? When did this happen? It can happen to anyone. So don't feel ashamed, and please don't judge other people that have gone through this, because you don't know what had brought someone to that place in their life. But what's important to know is that you too have hope, right? There are places like the Robin Foundation, robinfoundation.org. You can find out more information if you or a loved one is dealing with substance abuse issue and addictions. We want to be a resource for you, for the community. And what's most important is that this Saturday, September 20th, I wish I could be there. I will be emceeing another show. And we're busy out here. I'll be emceeing, and the folks know I've been talking about the Miss Louise Bennett Cavalll Heritage Council will be having, in honor of her 106th birthday, a pantomime fashion showcase called Stylin' 2025, and there's a big show at the Lauderhill Performing Arts Center. There's one on Saturday and one on Sunday, and I will be moderating and basically narrating, emceeing both shows, or I would be at your walk.
Great event.
So yes, so lots to do here in South Florida. Again, shout out to the Miss Louise Bennett Cavalll Heritage Council, and I will be in the building. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. So if you're looking for hot topics and news, make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll get into it. We'll take your calls, get it off your chest, and all that good stuff. But today, like I said, we're doing a little bit more heavy lifting, talking about the needless deaths that are caused in our community by fentanyl. And the walk is on Saturday, called Walk for Lives, is here to help highlight that. And of course, Mr. Chris Cavalll has been talking about his personal story where his wife, Robin, has lost her life to addiction overdose, had his daughter, Stephanie, who also didn't pass away, but had fentanyl and opioid poisoning, which is something that is very devastating to one's system. Needless to say, drug addiction and substance abuse addiction has changed their lives. So they decided to do something about it, created their mission, and they wanted to ignite others in the community so that they could all help to save families from experiencing the same devastating loss caused. So talk about what the Robin Foundation does.
So, as I was saying to you earlier before the break, our primary purpose is to distribute Narcan, as much Narcan in the communities that need it most. But the other thing that we do, and we pride ourselves in, is training, going out to organizations and talking to their employees, because these organizations, when their employees go home, they're still with that organization, okay? And we want to make sure they take the proper information home with them so they can have a safe environment when they come back to work. So that's, is the impetus of what we do primarily. But the long-term goal for the foundation is to build a residential campus recovery style community for women and children.
Fantastic.
Women and children are the most exposed when it comes to not receiving the benefits that men do, believe it or not. You know that there's approximately 75 recovery houses for men in South Florida, as opposed to 20 to 30 for women.
I did not know that.
And for women and children, there's only really, it used to be the Susan B. Anthony, now I think it's the Village South. But there's one woman, her name is Sonia Crudup, Dream Beyond Your Journey. She only has about 8 beds. So 8 beds for women and children in the entire county. That doesn't work.
So I thank you so much for the work you're doing. Again, I'm sitting here with a very, very incredible community leader, Mr. Chris Cavallo. He is the founder of the Robin Foundation, named for his late wife, Robin, who lost her battle to drug addiction. Since then, created this foundation of him and his daughters to honor their mom, honor his wife, and to create resources for the community as he's educating us on. And I had no idea that when someone is experiencing or in the throes of substance abuse addiction and needs a recovery home, there are a lot of homes. And actually, I used to speak at some of these. Now that you're mentioning this, this is taking me back. In Miami and other places where there were predominantly men, and there is a need for resource and recovery homes for women and children, women with children,
Yes.
which is very important. I went to speak to one, and I'm not going to butcher the name, but I remember speaking when I used to work for Trinity Broadcast Network back in the day. I did a program about that program, and I was shocked to see the young women that were in that home that had substance abuse challenges, right? Were addicted to drugs, addicted to fentanyl, addicted to opioids, addicted to all kinds of stuff, and had babies, had children. Some of the children had been removed from the home, and then they were trying to work on their own sobriety so that they become the parent, the mom, the caregiver, for themselves, even not only for the children but for themselves, that they needed to be to show up in the world fully. So you sometimes, and I'm grateful that we have Mr. Chris in the studio to uncover some of this, because if you're going about your life and you may not be exposed to people who are dealing with substance abuse, you might not even know it's there. But this is a huge issue in our community, not here, only here in South Florida, but across the country. So that's why I'm glad we have warriors like Mr. Chris Cavallo from the Robin Foundation. You can go to robinfoundation.org, robinfoundation.org, to talk, that's here to, educate the community about what's really happening and why this is such an important issue. Again, I've heard about it, maybe like you, in the news. The president's talking about fentanyl coming over the border, but we're talking about on the local level, what we're really seeing happen. So this miracle called Narcan, I think sometimes we have heard the name, some people may not be as familiar, but as he stated, the Robin Foundation is one of the main missions is to supply Narcan for free to folks who are working alongside those affected by substance abuse. And Narcan, as he said, and again, I'm learning from you today how it works. But if you apply Narcan, talk about that and why it works the way it does to basically, if someone is overdosing, bring them back, almost like an immediate recovery. How does that even work?
Yeah, it's an amazing drug. It's been around for over 40 years. EMS drivers have always carried it, but it was never really prevalent the way it is today. But if you go to our website, we have a 1-minute video that shows you how simply it is. In the state of Florida, the Narcan is used through a nasal spray, kind of like Efferent. So you literally put the medicine in the nostril, you push up the medicine, you wait a minute or two, hopefully the person begins to come around. If not, you put another nasal spray in the other nostril. Meanwhile, you've called 911, okay, which is always the problem with people that are using drugs, and one of their friends or partners goes down. Well, I don't want to call 911 because I'll be arrested. But that's why we have the Good Samaritan law in Florida, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes, explain the Good Samaritan law.
So the Good Samaritan law basically says that if you're trying to save a life, if you're trying to help someone, you can't be criminally prosecuted or civilly responsible. So that's what the Good Samaritan law. So please, if in fact you're in that situation, you have Narcan, don't be afraid to use it, number one. And certainly don't be afraid to call 911, especially here in Broward County.
Fantastic. So if you yourself are also in the throes of substance use or abuse, but someone you're with is overdosing. I actually, there are two scenarios I know about. And as an attorney, when we are exchanging stories between each other, now I don't do criminal defense, right? People call me all the time for different types of area of law, and I try to refer them to, my friends and networks and colleagues of people that I know. I've seen their work and what their outcomes normally are. But I've heard about stories just like that, where someone is using drugs or some other substance with other people, and one person begins to overdose, and people are afraid, and they leave the person. They leave the person who is vulnerable, who may not know that the joint or the marijuana is laced with something, or they all didn't know it was laced, but clearly from that person's bodily reaction, something is happening. And you should never leave someone who's in that state. I know, especially, and I'm speaking more for parents to talk to, they're teenagers, and there are a lot of, experimenting that goes on in that stage of life, especially now, because so much of the music talks about it. It wasn't like before. I think some things were under, cover, back behind closed door kind of thing, but now it's so prevalent to be, spoken about and rapped about in music, pop culture in general. Sure. So kids are less afraid, is what I'm saying. They're like, oh, let me try this. Let me see what's going on with this. I've never seen this. Or is it as, great, quote unquote, as they say, right? And that can be such a dangerous stage of life. So making sure you're talking to your young people about how addictive this stuff can be. It will take control of your being. Your brain becomes literally, and I'm not speaking scientifically, but it's like codependent. The urge to get high and get high and get high never leaves you. So imagine losing all control. Can't keep a job, can't take care of your family. Any addiction can then do that to you. But substance addiction is especially destructive when it comes to how it can just take over literally your mind, your body, and your soul. And you're looking at people, and you're maybe not my audience, but sometimes we judge and like, how did they let that happen? And there comes a point where you can't control it. You need medical intervention. So we have to be open to saying, my family member, my friend, my coworker, my church sister, whoever it is, because again, you never know what people are going through, and you never know who's quietly doing what. Trust me, in my circles, I've had some eye-opening exchanges with people. And, as an attorney, people share things with me. And of course, confidentially, and I listen, and I'm just like, wow, you could never tell what a person is going through. So if you or somebody you love is in need of some sort of intervention, please do not be ashamed, and look for resources. And again, you can start with the Robin Foundation, robinfoundation.org. And we have a lot of drug treatment facilities, not as many as we need for the ladies, a lot who are from Miami to Broward, male, only, or specifically for men who are dealing with substance abuse. But there are some that have catered to women and women with children. And I am grateful to have Mr. Chris Cavalll from the Robin Foundation in studio today, educating us here in the public. I know there's so much that we could talk about, but I tried to find interesting topics to give you some food for thought, right? And I noticed that you have volunteer opportunities. What do volunteers with the Robin Foundation do?
Yeah, without the volunteers, we couldn't survive, because it's basically my daughter, Chrissy, and myself, and I have a dedicated assistant, but we have about 10 volunteers who will be with us on Saturday. The volunteers are the ones that go out to events, the organized events, passing out Narcan, giving out education material. But the real work is done, like during spring break, for example. We'll make over 2,000 to 3,000 lanyards with 2 sprays on each lanyard and pass them out in the streets of Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
So organizations, again, like ours, South Florida Wellness, Department of Health, United Way, we all get together and do this, or in an organized fashion. So it's not a competition. It's about getting as much Narcan out into the community as possible, and also making people aware of the services that are available. So, for example, on Saturday, you're not just going to see South Florida Wellness Network and the Robin Foundation. You're going to see the Department of Health. You're going to see Fellowship Recovery. you're going to see a lot of organizations talking to people who may be in need. So let's say you're struggling with addiction right now. You don't know what to go. You could be homeless in the Pompano Community Park,
Yes.
where you could get help on that day.
Wow.
Okay, the help could look like detox. It could look like housing. You know, it has all different
components.
Yes,
absolutely. So we hear the passion in your voice, and I'm grateful. If you're looking for resources like Robin Foundation, they are here for you, folks. And again, in the Caribbean American community, we know that we talk, but we are oftentimes saying stuff quietly behind people's backs. I'm calling out somebody today. And instead of talking about your teenager who doesn't seem to care about school anymore, whose personality has changed, you got to look for those patterns. Now they're a little bit more angry. Now they don't sleep at night, or they're staying out and they're not coming home with curfew, things like that. Anytime you hear and see behavioral changes, parents, it's time for an intervention. It's not necessarily to blame you, because I realize this thing called raising children is not easy, and they can be influenced by so many things now. The internet is there and telling them how to live their lives. But you, parents, just understand you are the biggest influence, or should be the biggest influence for your child, and trying to guide them. You're trying to help them be happy and healthy adults. So don't feel guilty about speaking to them about substance addiction, right? Drug use, drug abuse. Because again, the songs and the pop culture are going to tell them about it. So you should be able to, first and foremost, educate them about this and help them understand how, again, addictive it is. There is no way oftentimes you could do this by yourself. And that is not to question your own strength as an individual. It is to say that it is such an addictive substance, as people have, shared with us, just like Mr. Chris is saying. You can't help yourself. It is so difficult to unhook your brain to this substance.
It's brain disease.
It is. It is. Now that we understand it more, it's not that the person is all of a sudden, trying to be a drug addict, but it is something that they cannot help and stop on their own. They have to really reprogram their brain, go through a whole detox. Can you talk about some of that detox experience? What is that like for most people?
Sure. Fortunately, I was able to get into detox, some longer than others, but generally detox is usually like a 7 to 10 day transition from, you're going in fully addicted to, coming out clean. But it's not always easy when you come out of detox, because a lot of times if you don't have insurance, only some, if detox is available, then they can come out and they can then start going to anonymous meetings, whether that be AA, Codependence Anonymous, and Narcotics Anonymous. So there's a lot of hope, and there's a lot of resources, again, that don't cost anything. So again, please come on Saturday to Walk for Lives, and we'll be glad, and introduce yourself to me, and I'll make sure that you get the resources that you need.
Listen, we're so grateful to have Mr. Chris Cavalll here again, founder, or I say co-founder, alongside his daughter,
Christina.
that, they had a whole experience. Life can knock you down, and you could take that pain and, dwell on it and become bitter and even become re-addicted. I'm grateful for your testimony, sir, because there's so many reasons for people to crawl up, literally, even though they're living, to act as if they are no longer here and die with the person that they loved. And again, he lost his wife to an overdose. How long ago?
2001, 24 years
ago. Wow. And he is in the fight to save others. And one of the ways he's doing that is on Saturday, Walk for Lives. This is going to be also a partnership with Voice of the Caribbean. This is going to be held in Pompano. Registration starts at 8:30 in the morning. It's free. Come walk, come support. Yes. Again, they give Narcan out, 2 sprays. Now I understand. I've never seen what a Narcan look like. So if I'm in the situation where someone may have it, I'll know how to utilize it. Make sure you still call 911. You have to alert authorities. And please be alert. I see online the Stephanie Humphrey channel says, I learned about Narcan last year when taking a mental health first aid training. Thank you, my darling. And thanks to Pastor Damon and Smooth Approach, everybody watching online who is commenting on my YouTube side. Follow me, Suzette Speaks on YouTube. And Jay said, thank you, Mr. Chris, for sharing your testimony and supporting the community. Listen, you took your pain and turned it into purpose. So we are hoping to come alongside you, Chris Cavalll, with the Robin Foundation. They can be found at robinfoundation.org. There's a big walk on Saturday, September 20th. This is this Saturday, starting at 8:30. Free registration. City of Pompano, where you at? Broward County, where are you? Help support this fantastic cause. September 20th, this Saturday at 8:30, starting registration. The walk itself begins at 9:30. It's free. Pompano Community Park, 1660 Northeast 10th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida 33060. Once again, that address is in Pompano Community Park, 1660 Northeast 10th Street. Northeast 10th Street, that is Pompano, and the zip is 33060. More information is available at robinfoundation.org. We only have about 2 more minutes. I know it goes by so fast. We can't wait to see you guys on Saturday. Of course, Voice of the Caribbean will be out there and supporting. We love to support the community in these wonderful ways. And again, tomorrow, I'll give you some more of the hot topics and news. Don't go anywhere. The Suzette Speaks Show always keeps it nice and spicy. So we'll get into some of that as well as what you can get into over the weekend. I'll be on the street, so will Voice of the Caribbean. But one of our big stops again will be this walk. And we hope that you will join us at the Robin Foundation Walk for Lives. Again, this Saturday, come out looking for a way to support a good cause in the community. Pompano, where are you? Broward County, let's go. That's going to be Saturday, 8:30. That's even not too early. Yeah. Sometimes the walk starts at 6, and I'm like, you can still get a decent amount of sleep and then get to the park at 8:30, and the walk starts at 9:30 at Pompano Community Park, 1660 Northeast 10th Street. 1 minute to go, sir. I'll give you the last word. What do you want to leave our listeners with about your work or about the organization or what they can do to show compassion in this fentanyl crisis that is impacting all of us?
If you have kids, doesn't matter what age, please talk to them and embrace them. And it doesn't just have to be about drugs. Mental health is at a huge issue right now for our teenagers, and suicide is now an option. We just don't want to lose any more kids. That's it's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching. So again, come Saturday, ask for Chris, and we're here to help you.
Listen, I am so grateful that he spent some time here on the Suzette Speaks Show. Thank you, sir. Thank you for all that you're doing for the community. Thank you for keeping your wife's life and legacy alive, knowing that you're going to help other people, even though you suffered such a tragic and a great, deep loss of her life. But it was not in vain. Here you are. Here your daughters are teaching other people like me, like this community here in Voice of the Caribbean, about what it means to, support our brothers and sisters who are facing addiction. We are our sisters and our brothers' keepers. Again, each one can teach one. We can help eradicate some of this poison from our communities. And I'm talking about the illicit drug, not when it's for actual pain. Please, again, the opinions reflected in today's conversation are that of the host and the guests and the callers. We didn't have any callers, but not that of the ownership of the station or its management. So please understand, we are grateful for you. Thank you for coming by. We're out of time. Thank you for listening to the Suzette Speaks Show. I'll be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your Thankful Thursday.
5HD2. This is the all-new Voice of the Caribbean.